Uh, Good evening. For us, it's afternoon. I don't know for you. We are. I'm working with. I'm presenting. Sorry, a research. The result of a research project that is an Horizon 2020 project. That is its name is Repair, and is a project that is oriented to understand. In which way it is possible to identify a decision support system able to support the elaboration of eco-innovative solution related to solve the different critical issue that could be considered for construction and demolition waste, and also for organic waste in some specific territorial contexts that are defined wastes. That means some landscape of waste, or waste landscape, where the territory is a result of different pressure, human pressure of different kind, that in many cases have defined a critical condition that need to activate some processes of regeneration. So in this process, we worked with a very interesting consortium, international consortium. The repair project was coordinated by the TU Delft University of Delft, and then the University of Naples, Federico II, and especially the Department of Architecture, where I work, was involved as a partner. This presentation has been elaborated with Chiara Mazzarella and Maria Somma, that are two PhD students involved in this project, also with a special grant. So we started for the presentation considering some three main issues. One of the point that is the premise, but also the framework that we considered for the elaboration of our approach, that is that of circular economy, considering the challenge, but also the limits of this process, and especially of these methodology principles. The GDSE, that is the platform, also the expression of the decision-making support system elaborated during the repair project, oriented to activate a collaborative decision-making process for the management of construction and demolition waste flow, in this case of my presentation, but also of organic waste for all the project, and then some research open issue that could be useful for our next steps in this field. So we started from the concept of circular economy, especially linked to that of urban metabolism, because we considered the territorial system as a central point where the resources are input, and especially the wasted resources are input for a new process of recycle, where the output are also some new opportunities of regeneration, especially combining ecological, economic, social, and cultural dimension. So in this perspective of an integrated approach, we identified what are the potential challenges that could be analyzed for construction and demolition waste management, in attention to the circular economy, starting also from some literature review that identify in sustainability one of the main core purpose, but also in recycle, one of the other topic particularly relevant. And also considering the different opportunities related also to decision support system, especially considering that assessment, involvement of different actors, and identification of suitable partnership could be relevant for the management of the cycle of waste and of waste, especially with the construction and demolition sector. So starting from this, the repair project defined a platform where this platform is named Geodesign, and it is possible to see on the website of the repair project, and is particularly interesting because this platform is used to visualize the different flusses of waste, but also to identify the relationship that could be among the different kind of actors involved in the phase of production of waste and also of the different kind of effect that can be followed from production. The methodological process was oriented to a section of co-creation and context that integrate three main different methodological processes. The central is that of geodesign, that is also the way to identify the different aspects of a multidimensional platform. The second was the living lab, especially the peri-urban living lab, because the territory that we selected in the repair project was that of peri-urban territories. And the living lab were used to implement a process of interaction with the different stakeholders and the local communities, and also to identify a public partnership and private interaction, public, private, and people interaction, able to identify in which way a collaborative process can be implemented, sharing a common purpose. And then the LCA assessment, the life cycle assessment, that is particularly interesting in order to understand the impact assessment of waste flow and the opportunities that could be defined after this kind of assessment. In this perspective, so the geodesign processes defined by Steinitz of collaborative planning processes has been implemented but also redefined with an interaction of wastegate characteristics and waste flow characteristics. Identifies so a workflow that is oriented to understand how works the different case study with some study areas map, in which way the metabolism, the urban metabolism of this area can be represented by some selected indicators, and in which way could be defined some oriented target and related strategies, and also in which way could be implemented some eco-innovative solution able to combine different interests and different techniques. In this, so our study was oriented to identification of two main pilot cases, the city of Naples and the city of And for each of them, the study area was analyzed considering the different wastescape categories and also the different indicators able to express the component of this concept of waste. These different categories were expressed by some specific indicators. In many cases, these indicators were represented by a spatialization, and this was particularly useful to identify their localization, but also to identify the relevance of their role inside the decision-making process, especially for an awareness of the different critical aspects of the case study selected. Starting from this, the status quo was expressed analyzing the composition of the flux of waste, considering the different categories. This is an example of the mixed inert categories produced in Naples for construction and demolition waste, that is represented for their different quantity, but also for their different spatialization in terms of flux on the territory. This also an idea to map the flow map, the flow definition, considering their relationship with the produced activities, and so considering the economic activity as a relevant point for the understanding of their relevance inside the production of waste. Starting from this, some Sankey diagrams were elaborated in order to understand the relevance of the different components, and so to identify how the flow analysis can be based on the different activity related to each one of the material component of the flow analysis. So the material flow analysis was one of the main relevant tool to understand the characteristics of the waste. This is also some slide that showed how the platform works, identifying especially a sort of ranking of objective and target, and with the selection of some specific indicators that can be that have been elaborated for each one of the different case study. The main purpose is to change the way to understand and also to identify some solution for the territory, starting from the idea that from a static definition of traditional economy could be implemented a circular economy process, identifying a set of eco-innovative solution, making circular the value chain of construction and demolition waste, and also implementing the idea of eco-innovation also oriented to the purpose of European Union. And this is particularly interesting that the strategy is a combination of different components, able also to involve different actors, able to work together for the activation of some specific action that could be oriented to some normative purposes, but also some real concrete operation that could be implemented by a set of action. In this, so the elaboration of the different strategies consider also the opportunity to combine the different opportunities of the territory, and also to identify in which way the different eco-innovative solution can be combined for define an eco-innovative strategies. That is a sort of incremental decision-making process able to combine in a different way specific action. From this, particular interest is also in order to understand the capacity of a strategy to be effective, is the idea to combine the different indicators in order to assess the potential of the strategy development. And this is one of the examples that is possible to implement for the analysis and the construction of the strategy. In this, is particularly interesting to understand in which way it's possible to implement some flow indicator for understand the purpose, but also to implement the different objective that a shared pool of different kind of stakeholders can identify as relevant. And this is particularly interesting in this part of the platform because it's useful to manage the different conflict and also to activate a common ground for the selection of shared point of view, but also selected shared solution. And this is a way of the different steps that is possible to implement considering the Geodesign platform. It's also interesting to identify in which way the flow can be modified by the strategies, and in this considering this point are relevant the identification of impact of the different kind of impact that this platform and especially the combination of the indicators can generate for a specific strategic process. In this is relevant the interaction among the different stakeholders that combine the point of view of the institutions, but also of research and education sectors, of the industry, and also of civil society, including NGO, but also people that live in the different communities and the citizen in general. Some conclusion could be relevant in order to understand the potential of this approach, but also some critical point and the different opportunity that can we consider for the next future. In this consideration, waste and waste stream are an input for the co-design of eco-innovative strategies. It's also interesting that this platform, Geodesign platform, is useful for a dynamic visualization of the status quo, and especially of the waste and material flow. And this is able to use the assessment as a process of learning of the different condition and of different visualization. Also, waste became resources for eco-innovative strategies that could be useful for activate some spatial regeneration processes. Also considering innovation as a way to mix different point of view, but also to generate new solutions combining different interests, different skills, and different capability to work together. Then it's interesting because we can manage different kind of conflict that are conflict among interest, objective, places, and actors that became a relevant part of the decision-making process. Then the methodological approach was able to promote a kind of interaction and dialogue among the different stakeholders, and also to support an adaptive and collaborative cooperation that could be useful for an awareness and civil behavior in the decision-making process. At the end, the circular economy is a relevant point because it became an integral part of the decision-making process, and also support the different stage, considering the opportunity to identify a circular process as relevant for starting from waste, but consider waste as resources and generate new kind of resources and new kind of values. Economic, but not only economic. So this is a way also to define some enabling conditions that are able to consider the space, in many cases abandoned or characterized by really critical condition, as a new space for new opportunities and new implementation, and the implementation of new regenerative co-design process. Thank you so much.